All right, this is Rob Tringali, and this is episode 54 of Who's on Top.
Who's on top?
And welcome back to episode 54 of Who's on Top. I'm your host, Ori. It is March 15th, 2021. And boy, are we excited today. We have a special guest on the podcast. But before we introduce him, let's go back to our regular analysts. Sitting in his Syracuse room, we have the wonderful Frisbro, Jacob Caston.
What's up, guys? Let's talk some sports.
And looking dashing like Clark Kent in his glasses, we have the fencing captain, Jeremy Giles.
As always, at your service.
And our little Russian machine, Ellis Gordon's looking fine as well.
What's up, guys?
And finally, our special guest for episode 54 of Who's on Top, Rob Tringali.
Great being here with everybody.
We're excited to have you on the show. And let's start off with a little bit of background. So, Rob, tell us about like how you got into photography. What inspired you?
My dad was a photographer and had a business in the sports photography world in the in the 70s, probably, or mid 70s. So as a kid, I was born in 69. So as a 7-8-year-old, I was going to World Series games and Super Bowls and, meeting all the photographers, before the games and whatnot. And, obviously the big events and the hotels and whatnot. So, I had an into it, let's say. But through high school, I probably wanted to play sports more than anything. So, that I wasn't really thinking about photography, and it really wasn't a thing as a future as far as I was concerned. But after high school, I assisted some of my dad's photographers. I worked for him. And, when you walk on the field for the first time as a 16, 17-year-old kid, you get the bug to like, all right, I got to maybe figure out how to do this professionally. So that's how it started.
That's awesome. I know Jake's also been working on in Syracuse with some of the sports management people there. So I'm sure he's just as in awe of walking on the field.
A lot of good guys. I know a lot of great photographers come out of Syracuse, and
awesome.
So a lot of good friends of mine. So it's a great program. No question about it.
Some of Jacob's selfies are also pretty great. So I'd love to see that.
I wouldn't go there.
Rob, I must admit, we kind of stalked your Instagram, and we know you've gotten into cooking.
Yes,
at least somewhat.
It's been a weird year. It's not shooting a lot of sports. So I've tried to take on my other passion, which is eating.
I think I'm definitely into that passion as well as the fellow analysts know here.
If I wasn't a photographer, I'd definitely be a chef. So maybe there's another career down the road here.
So we want to do a little segment called Tringali's Kitchen. And since you've gotten into cooking, what are the ingredients of a good photo?
All right, good. Well, obviously the moment, I think, from a sports perspective, I think the moment is key. From an artistic standpoint, the lighting and composition, luck, you throw all those into the mix, and they happen very rarely. So if you get and then obviously I think the athlete, like who it is, like the marquee ones obviously stand out. Like so the Jordans and the Tigers and the LeBrons and the Bradys. If I had to say like the top ingredient would be like person, moment, great, atmosphere, and then being lucky to be in the right spot, which is tricky, but also you kind of try to make your own luck at the same time.
And I'm sure that, especially in cooking as well, like if you don't get it once, you got to try again. And I'm sure you take like thousands of photos, especially
a lot of photos. And,
so at least one of them's got to capture at least the right moment.
It's funny. Yes, but you do miss the ones that you miss, you think about for the rest of your life. And there are the ones that you do miss. It just, either in the wrong spot, someone gets in the way. I mean, like, for example, that David Tyree, in the Super Bowl, at the one against his helmet that he caught, like there was a safety that literally was between me and him. So I got a shot of his back. And so it's crushing every time you see somebody else's shot and you're like, I got like Rodney Harrison's back and that's it. And it's one of those things you just think about forever. I mean, you literally, there's days you just like, you see that highlight, you see other people's pictures from that moment, and it crushes you. So there's a few of those that are, you know, you don't ever get over. So, and you remember more of the misses than the ones that you actually have gotten. So, and those hurt. So, and with sports photography, there is no safety net. I mean, that's one of the allures of it, is that you go into it knowing that you have like one chance. There is no, for the big moments, you don't have another, do over. So, there are days you're high as a kite. You go, you hang out with your buddies after the game, you nail the shot and you have a great time and you enjoy it. And the ones that you miss, I mean, you sleep, you wake up in the middle of the night at 4 a.m. and you're like, God, fuck, are you kidding me? Like, I can't believe, it's over, there's nothing you can do about it. So it's part of the fun of it though.
I mean, it's pretty analogous to like what's going on in the field, actually. Like, you only have one shot on the field and you only have one shot capturing that field.
Completely. Yeah. It's one of the careers that what other professions, there's some do-overs, another take, whatever. With sports, there's, you're on a tightrope. You fall off and it's over. It's over.
Well, you definitely have some makes, because I scrolled through your website. You definitely have some makes.
I got some makes, no question about it. Over 30 years, yes, I've been fortunate to grab them. But you definitely think. I think there's a scene in Rounders where, the beats is the one you remember more than the ones that the hands that you won. So you really remember the beats so much more.
Awesome. LSU wanted me to take this one.
So I can take this.
So, go ahead.
We had some like, before we get into some bigger themes, we have some like quick like questions to ask. I think we can just go
gut reaction. Yeah.
So first one, I guess I'll take. Do you like digital or film photos better?
Film. If I had to go back, film was obviously way harder and but it really separated the men from the boys. Now more than ever, you have so many more people that can do it based on the digital aspect of it. It's just, there was a precision with film shooting that, really, the best stood out. And so, yeah. And then plus, from a aesthetic, there's still something about the tangibility. Even when I, hold a piece of chrome in my hand or a piece of acetate in my hand, there's something real about it. So yeah, if I had to choose, I shot enough film in my days that I can make the comparison. I mean, it's obviously digital is easier, storage and all that stuff, that you could shoot thousands of frames without changing a roll of film. But if I had to pick one, it would be film.
Awesome. Next up, would you do filter or no filter if you had to choose?
No filter. I mean, you obviously use Photoshop to create a look. And every photographer kind of has a look that you try to achieve, but definitely people do overdo it. But there's always some cleaning up, and there's some aesthetic you're trying to get. But if you look at my stuff, it's pretty legit. It's pretty authentic. I mean, there's definitely some cleanup, but it's not overdone.
So I guess next on, are you someone that prefers do you kind of prefer like in the action shots? Do you prefer like photo shoot or more like photo shoots so you can get like the perfect?
When I first started, it was definitely being on the field, that adrenaline rush, Super Bowls, Olympics, World Series, you name it. But over the last 5, maybe even a little longer than that, I like, I definitely like more of the one-on-one shooting, the more of the portrait sessions, more of the, be just following a guy's, story, let's say. So I've kind of moved away a little bit more from the day-to-day game action stuff. So currently, I would say more, it's kind of like doing more of the portrait stuff, more of the, one-on-one, follow a person around, kind of not so much of the play today, let's say.
Like black and white, or you like more color shots? Because I know black and white has gone back.
Yeah, no. I went through a good black and white phase. I think I'm more now gone back to the color. It's like anything else. Like, it's whatever feels right at the time. But yeah, there are shots that work well in black and white better. There's a classic look to them. So, but right now, if I had to say right now, it's probably more on the color look. I think I went heavy black and white probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago, and I'm more color at this point. But it doesn't mean that tomorrow that could change. But right now, I'm in more of a color phase at this point.
Awesome. And we have one more question for you.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one event to film for the rest of your life, what would it be? Super Bowl, World Series, Olympics? What would it be?
I've only done one of them, but I did the World Cup soccer in Germany in 2006, and that was probably to this day like probably the best like month I've ever spent like shooting sports. It was just an amazing event. It was in Germany, which is a great country to host it. So if I can choose one, it would probably be something like that, like a World Cup soccer event.
Once every 4 Euros, that's pretty bold.
Yeah, I know.
Ellis and I are big soccer fans.
Yeah, it was so much fun, and I guess it's coming from a point where I've done so many Super Bowls and I've done so many World Series that, it's hard not to say that, but I really enjoyed just that month long, take a train from Hamburg to Frankfurt, and then another game was in Berlin, and then it was just a great month of just every game was obviously amazing, and it was fun to be part of it. That's one of the events I'll always remember as like I wish I could do it again.
Yeah, nothing compares it. I think it's still by far the most watched competition.
I mean, I walked on the field of Italy, France, the final in Berlin. It was, it was just like, you're thinking about like, billions of people are watching it at home, and it was something that,
it's literally the center of the world at that point.
Yeah, no question. And so that answers that question.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we have like a little more in deep topic. We call it through the lens.
Okay.
you get it. Yeah. So we just wanted to know what was your craziest like photo shoot story you had with like an athlete or athlete?
One was there's a bunch of them, but I guess the one off the top of my head was so I was asked to do the 2008 All-Star game, which is the old Yankee Stadium, and my editor asked me if I wanted to shoot it from the blimp, and I said yes. I never shot from a blimp before. This is awesome. So I get to the airport, and I don't know if the pilot was messing with me, but he looked at me. He's like, "How much do you weigh?" And I'm like, "I don't know, like 210 at the time." I was confused, and he's throwing all these barometric pressures at me. He's like, "It's a really hot day. We have 5 guys in the blimp. I'm not sure we're gonna, be able to get you up in the blimp. You're gonna." And then he goes, "To be honest with you, I'm not gonna know until we're rolling down the runway if we're gonna be able to clear the tree line with you and all your gear." I mean, till this day, he might have been messing with me. I don't know. Yeah. So I said, "What do we do?" He's like, "Well, the blimp will start rolling down the runway, like, slow, and you start kind of walking near it, and, we'll pick up speed. And then at one point, the guys in the blimp will give the thumbs up, and they'll just grab you and bring you in, give them the okay, like, he thinks he can get us up." And that's exactly what happened. I mean, literally, I ran along a blimp with my gear, like, a roller case, and got, a couple of 100 feet down the runway. And sure enough, I got, guys grab me into the blimp, and we took off. And we literally just made the tree line. We literally just cleared like whatever tree line was in front of us. And
that's wild.
And then we proceeded to, the game went to 15 innings. We proceeded to circle Yankee Stadium like 8,000 times. And I wanted to like jump into the East River.
Do you get good shots from blimps?
You get, as the sun went down, it was great. It's 7, whatever, it was summer night, middle of the summer. So, the sunset, it was a great, beautiful night. But between 9 p.m. and 2 in the morning, it was
nothing to do in a blimp.
There were guys, there was no bathroom. We had everyone had like a big Gatorade bottle, and it wasn't like I've seen like the luxury. The Goodyear blimp is pretty luxurious, or at least from a blimp standpoint. But this was like a flying lawnmower. So, we were up there for a long time, and it was like painful at one point. So that's the story that I remember off the top of my head. I'm sure there's obviously lots more, and I've slid down ski hills and during the Olympics, and all kinds of crazy shit. So
nice. What's like the best? Actually, we kind of asked. I was gonna say what was the best event, but you already told us it was the 2006
Yeah,
World
I mean,
Cup.
yeah, it definitely has a special place. I mean, they're all special. I mean, my first Super Bowl, I shot perfect games, and there's the time the Yankees won in '96, the Giants Super Bowl against the Bills. I mean, there's so many of them. It's hard to really pinpoint.
Do you feel like you get desensitized to like good moments?
No, because they're really rare, honestly. I mean, honestly, because I've shot 28 Super Bowls, and you could really pick on one hand like the great moments. I mean, there aren't that many. I mean, it's really what's amazing about it is like when you talk about like top notch moments, like the game winning home runs, like the Joe Carters and the catch or whatever you want to say. There aren't that many in sports that have that epic quality. That's kind of like the scary part because you're just always waiting for that, and I can't miss that, that moment when it happens. So I mean, it's scary and also like it's what you do. So it's a cool fact. But there are that when you really think about it, when you really break it down, there aren't that many like marquee, had to see moments, in big events. So.
Well,
Yeah,
I guess
so-
adding on to that, I guess the question I had a little bit is like, so do you still get nervous? Like if you're filming at a Super Bowl, do you still get nervous? Or at this point, you're like, oh, this is my 29th Super Bowl. I've been here.
Yeah, you get. Is nervous the right word? Yeah, I think it's fair to say nervous. I think you do kind of, there's a calmness that you need to have. You need to kind of, be able to slow things down. And I think that something that you learn over time is how to really just, it's just another game. But yeah, I think, you do kind of it does creep into your head every once in a while of like, man, just don't miss. But I think at this point in my career, I think I've learned how to just calm it down and just sell myself that it's just another game. It's just a normal, just another football game. So maybe definitely not as much as I used to, and something you learn over time to kind of just realize it's just another football game, which is another. But you do know that there is a lot more at stake. So yeah.
Do you feel like there's ever a game where like you just don't capture anything of significance? I'm
no
sure they're like
question
you
about
draw a
it.
ton of blanks. Like
there's definitely days. There's definitely days you walk away from it like you were just in the wrong spot. Things just didn't happen. You were just like you have an 0 for 4 day. I mean, there's days like that. You strike out 3 times. It just there's no question about it. There's days it just doesn't work. Every decision you make is wrong. Every part of the field you went, there's an interception return, or like, I'm supposed to be here and you picked the wrong lens, or no question about it. And again, it's part of the allure of shooting sport is that there's a decision making to be made, and sometimes it's the wrong one.
0-4 sounds like a Gary Sanchez kind of day.
Yeah, right.
Quiet.
I've had those,
Having a
no
great
question
spring.
about it. And I'm like, and so, I don't mind talking about it because I think if you're going to get into this business, it's you have to realize that you're going to fail, and you're going to have to live with that, and kind of like a relief pitcher, you have to kind of just brush it off and come back the next day.
How does that work with like taking photos in like stadiums? Do you have like, I'm gonna go to here during this time, or like you try to go around the field to best position yourself?
Yeah, this depends. Like certain games is just you, or maybe you and another photographer. Like bigger games like Super Bowls, you might have 4 or 5 guys you're working with, and then you kind of divvy up the field. Like like if I've done a Super Bowl for like Sports Illustrated, for example, 2 guys might be in the end zone, 2 guys might be running around the sidelines. So it really depends. But there's been a lot of like cost cutting, so a lot of times you're out the mercy. You're maybe just covering the game by yourself, especially if it's not a big game. So at that point, you're just using your own instinct to determine where's the best place to be and whatnot. And that's it goes you kind of you try to know the sport, you try to know what tendencies teams have. So that helps a little bit.
Do you think you've gotten that kind of like instinct about
no question
about like what's gonna happen, like premonition almost?
It's weird. I mean, I remember when I first started you would see the guy, these the best photographers, and it was like, how are they always in the best spot? Like it doesn't make any sense. But as time goes on, you just start feeling things like you just start feeling it, and most of the time it does work out. And it's I would guess it's like it's an instinctive thing, and it's
like a spidey sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you see like a point guard just has this like vision that they just know where people are, and you kind of have a good sense of feel of just what might happen next. And I can only say that's an instinctive quality that comes
That's so
with
cool.
you over time. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Rob,
it's not it's something you learn over time, and you just I mean I think it does it there's some validity to that.
gotcha. They're really interesting.
Yeah.
Not sure if you'll have a precise answer to this question,
Right, I'll give you-
but how many photos do you think you've taken in your career, approximately?
This is the money
30
shot.
years.
I can see you doing the math right now in your head.
I mean, you're probably shooting a few thousand images per game, and let's say you're doing 150, 200 games a year, times that by 30 years.
It's like 200K a year times
Do you want me
30.
to pull out a calculator?
Yeah, if you want
No,
to
I
get a
can-
calculator,
that's like-
those are the
that's like
rough
6 million.
numbers.
Yeah,
That's like
I got my
150
I got my
events,
CI-84 next to me.
150
6 million.
events, a couple of thousand.
All right,
know.
150 events.
I-
About
Couple of
I-
let's say
2,000.
safely 2,000 images per event.
All right.
Wow.
So
Times
that
30.
is right now 300,000 per year. 300,000 per
30
year.
years.
Times 30. Wow.
It's like right.
That is
Wow.
insane.
That's a lot of zeros.
Yeah.
That's a good 9 million pictures.
It's a 9
right
million.
there.
Yeah, no, I would
It's a
say
lot of
that's fair.
pictures.
That's
I
wild.
think that's fair. Well, a
Wild.
lot, most of those are throwaways, but I have a whole
And-
storage unit of old Chrome, so I mean,
How many of those pictures survived the cut? Like what? Roughly.
probably get it down to, if I shot a game of a couple of thousand images, I probably get it down to like 150, 200 images.
Hello? And I
So
guess
probably like 10% maybe, maybe a little less, and that's that's being kind. That's
Yeah.
probably things for future usage or whatnot. But I think that's a fair edit, let's say, from a.
So for me, I guess I had a kind of question, kind of along the line of like you say you get about like 150 photos per game. I guess just more about the financial side of it to an extent. Like
Okay.
if you could, no, I'm just curious. Like, how does it kind of work? Right? Is it like they just hire you for a game? Is it like per picture?
Yeah, the way I work, I'm more on a freelance basis. I mean, you do have your staff photographers for newspapers and magazines and wire services, and obviously they get paid salary. But for me, clients pay me per game, per event, and with that comes a creative fee, and then all your expenses, and then certain clients it's a buyout, which is they pay you more money because they own the images. I tend to work for clients more that pay me a little bit less, but I own the images after like an embargo period. So it kind of every assignment is somewhat different, but that's kind of generally how it works, at least for me anyway.
When we are talking about these clients, say you worked say a Giants Jets game at MetLife, say a preseason Giants Jets game. Are you hired by the teams or is it the league?
Obviously, yes, it's also different. I mean, like clients like Sports Illustrated, ESPN, sometimes, it's actually the leagues that hire me. MLB, I do a lot of work for, sometimes the NFL, it could be just an Adidas or a Nike, for example, can hire you for a particular thing or, follow an athlete. So there's a variety of people who would actually need a photographer to go out and cover something.
All right, we have on our podcast sometimes a segment called Wacky Sport of the Week where we discuss like what are some of the craziest sports. Have you taken pictures of any crazy sports of your own?
For context, this is like chess boxing or like wacky things.
Good Lord, yeah. What's that flu tag? What's that? What's that Red Bull thing when people make these little flying objects out of cardboard and whatnot, and they jump off a dock to see who goes the furthest. I've done that.
I guess next I had a question I was kind of really curious about. So I know you've done a lot of on the field stuff. I know you've also probably done some photo shoots and things like that. So I guess I wonder, I know a lot of athletes have a lot of like personality and they have their own, whatever you would call it. I guess, so how much of like photo shoots, how much is it like stuff you pre-plan usually? And how much is it kind of just the athletes kind of just being athletes and being themselves to an extent, if that makes sense?
So you're asking me, what's the question? I mean, give me.
I guess like basically like if you're going to a photo shoot, do you kind of just the athletes do their own thing, or is it more?
No, usually if it's a photo shoot, usually it's a reason for it. So, like for example, I saw Kevin Love last year for the Players Tribune, and he's got he talks about a lot about his.
Oh wait, those were your pictures?
Yeah,
I read that. That was a great article.
Yeah, so that's
awesome.
So you actually have going into it, you actually have there's a reason, like you're trying to get something, you're trying to get, his a feel. You talk to the art director. The art director has a sense of what kind of style he's trying to achieve, and then you get there, and then you see Kevin. You talk to him a little bit about it, and then you see what the aesthetics of the place is. But you're trying to obviously create an image that depicts the article that he's about to write. So every shoot is different. Sometimes it's a pensive shoot, sometimes it's a heroic shoot, sometimes it's a really digging deep into somebody's life, and getting a little heavy duty with some of the back behind the scenes kind of stuff. So again, it's all, especially when it comes out to photo shoots, it's all, every one of those things has a certain thing you're trying to capture. So yeah, I mean, yeah, and they all have a kind of look. The art director, if it's for a magazine cover, it's for a story, there's always something that you're getting a lot of direction from. Again, your photo people, your art directors, and then you get there, and you hopefully the athlete, like for example, Kevin Love, he was great. He was just a great guy to work with. We worked with him for a couple hours, and he gave us all the time in the world. And sometimes you show up and guys, it can be ornery, and he wants you out of there, and you just have to do your best.
They take a few hours, the photo shoots.
That one did, yeah. That one, yeah. A lot of them don't. A lot of them are like, you got 6 minutes or 5 minutes. But that one particularly, it was great. It was actually a good one, because usually before, without COVID, you would have had, you have like his agent, you have this guy, you have his hanger-ons, you have the guy, his entourage, and there's always somebody pushing you. Like, this one I showed up and it was him and his girlfriend at the time, and he was in a good mood, and he's a good-looking dude, and it was a great, he had a great spot to shoot. So we just hung out, we made cool pictures, we talked a little bit, and so it was really a great shoot. But yeah, it was definitely on the longer side. But yeah, so you take those when you get them, because there are most of them are kind of, you have a lot of people pushing you, like, oh, he's got to go, he's got to run, he's got I've had guys like, I did like Francisco Lindor a couple of years ago, and I got there, and he's like, hey man, I just gotta get a massage, I'll be right back. He got back like 5 hours later. So and he's a good dude, he's a great guy, but he's like, oh man, I just had to get I get my hamstrings worked on, I had to get this and that, I'm really sorry. He's like, you got me, but those happen too. So
all right, I got a question, if I may. What do you think is in your opinion, the easiest and the hardest sport to photograph?
The easiest sport to photograph is probably like tennis, because you just have a lot of time, and you have a lot of, there's a lot of play happening in the long, so and you do have the ability to kind of move around. So I think, just from an ease, and it's usually very comfortable. It's usually nice weather. I mean, hard sport would be probably golf. Would be like, because it's endless. Like you have to walk forever with a lot of gear. And, it's like, I try to stay away from golf these days. I mean, you're talking about you got to get you get to the course at like 6 a.m. before the sun's especially the early rounds where you're shooting like you're shooting the morning session, and you're shooting the afternoon session, and you might be there for 14 hours, and you walk like 20 miles with heavy equipment, and like where it's 98 degrees in the middle of a US Open in the summer. So yeah, if I had to pick, and then NASCAR, because it's like it's loud and obnoxious. Sports, I try to stay away from NASCAR and golf. So but
so
yeah,
I had an interesting question that just like kind of popped in my mind. What's the most like other than the blimp, because I've never thought of that, like what's the most unconventional way you've had to like shoot a shot? Is it like, have you ever had to do it like hanging upside down or anything?
Sometimes you get to a World Series and they try to squeeze like way more people in a photo box than should be. So there are times I've shot where like 1 foot is on
hanging off the railing,
hanging, and somebody's got a camera on my left side of my ear, and then the game might go 14 innings, and you're in this like little like photo box trying to contort your body into a certain position.
Takes athleticism too.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, I mean, I've shot in -degree days in Green Bay. Basically because you kneel down, you're on a sheet, basically a sheet of ice, and like I shot one playoff game in Green Bay. It was like I must have had like 103-degree temperature, and I was just frozen.
as a person that like I don't know cameras that well at all, can cameras like survive that? Like
there's a point where they definitely can survive it. I mean, in the film days, which was funny, like there was a point where if you had an auto rewind, like that can actually snap the film, so you would actually have to manually rewind the film with your hand because it would get so cold that literally a film could snap if you use that auto rewind. But yeah, the equipment could pretty much hold up. I mean, but extreme is extreme, and you get to those like minus 20-degree days somewhere. I mean,
that's wild.
You kind of rolling the dice at one point. Really, like, you tape like hand warmers to your body and your legs, and you try to like basically just survive.
Jacob's like, that's shorts weather.
That's shorts.
Jacob wears shorts. Jacob might be out there. Yeah.
Jacob wears shorts to all.
I would test him on that one. I guess. I mean, there are days I walked out of the car at certain stadiums, and I'm like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way to survive this today. Absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking on the topic of cameras, how many cameras or lenses do you bring to a typical game?
A normal setup would be 3. Would be normal. So it's a long lens, medium zoom, and then like a wide lens that you would put around your chest as for like anything that happened close to you. So that's normally a 3 camera, 3 lens setup. Every once in a while, you might have like another camera if you're doing something artsy with an artsy kind of lens that you just have. Bigger events, I might have an assistant with me that handles some of that equipment. But I would say the normal day would be like a 3 lens, 3 camera setup.
Yeah.
To go along with that, I guess a little bit. How do you pick what lens to use at what moment? Right? Imagine like on a football field, you don't know if like it's gonna be like a short pass near you or like a 50-yard ball.
Yeah, no, they make better zoom lenses now that which I'm not a big fan of because the aesthetic to them is not. I've always thought myself more of a even if I make an image, it's still I want it to be like an artsy looking shot where the background's blown out of talking in artistic terms. So, but they do have better zoom lenses, which I choose not to have because it doesn't have like a look to it. But that being said, like the Odell Beckham shot, like the one-handed one, like I was totally over lensed on that one. I mean, I went with like a big 400 lens, and as he got closer to me, I was like, he literally, I got like a shot of his arm and it's way tight and it's one of those things, it's like, you do, you pick wrong sometimes, but yeah, it is like, and it's split second. It's like a nanosecond where, Manning goes back to pass and he heaves it up there and you say, oh, I'm going to go for the tighter shot, maybe the ball, into his shoulder. And it's literally one of those like, like split second decisions that you make that, and then so that's a decision. But you always try to cover yourself with that wide lens around your neck. That if something's really close to you, you can kind of bring that up to your eye real quick and save yourself. But sometimes again, it's one of those things that you make a split second decision sometimes.
Personally, I think that's one of the greatest catches of all time. Football.
Yeah. It's crazy. No, I mean, like
it was okay. It was okay.
Daniel, be quiet. So
it was okay.
Rob, what would you say is the greatest singular moment you've captured?
Ooh, God.
Or give us like a top 3. You can't pick
top 3. I mean, I guess some of it is personal. I guess the Norway wide right was a personal, like one of my first Super Bowls and being, being there and getting that picture of the Super Bowl against the Giants Buffalo. Man, just
not the tartar tuna from Tuesday night.
What was that? I missed that. Did I miss that?
There he is.
When was this? Last week?
Yeah, just looking up your Instagram. Carlos gave it to me.
Oh, no, the tuna. I got you. Yeah. Hey, man, I'm more about the steak. Steak au poivre. I think that was a top moment. Oh man, I mean, the perfect game. I shot the David Wells perfect game.
Oh, that's
from
cool.
a just Yankee Stadium perfect game that doesn't happen very often. I kind of snuck myself into the stands, which was like a no-no in Yankee land, like, something that you just don't do. And so I had to like hide my credential. I had to talk my way through a security guard. And then, it was a film, it was filmed. So I had no idea what I shot. And So that was a moment. That was, from a, and obviously it was a big moment from just a,
Did you
something that doesn't happen.
did you get the iconic shot of him like on his knees, like with Posada coming up to him? Did you get that shot?
I have the shot of him. It was fun. I went for the shot. The classic shot to me with a perfect game was the scoreboard shot because I wanted to see all the zeros in the background, and that was the shot I was aiming at. I was going for, and I was in the stand, so I was literally like, So once he pitched that, he hit the last pitch. I mean, I got some shots of him off the field, but that was the shot that Sports Illustrated ended up running that like a big double page that week, and and that was a moment I'll never forget. And
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I think we've kept you for long enough, so we have one more theme question before we end. Since it's March Madness and our next episode is going to be a lot about March Madness, do you have a best moment for March Madness that comes to mind?
It's so funny. It's one of those sports where I've never covered a March Madness.
Oh,
Really?
Ever.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, I shot when I first started. I shot basketball. I did a lot of net stuff. I was one of the photographers that worked for the Nets. I would assist him, and he let me shoot. And then, as a photographer, you just decide what sports you're going to really cover,
specialize in.
Yeah. And it was baseball, it was football, it was soccer, and I really like the outdoor stuff. I really like the elements. I really, to me, basketball and hockey was a little antiseptic as far as creativity. You were inside, and so I really enjoyed more of the outdoor stuff. And then then other photographers come in and they have specialties, so guys who shot basketball and whatnot. So it was one of those things like as you're working for magazines, you're the guy who shoots this and this and this, and there are guys who shoot this and this and this, and I never I shot college basketball games, but never like the tournament, never, and it was something like on my bucket list. And as time gone on, it just became harder and harder, guys, it's territorial at that point, guys are, hey, you're not gonna, just like, I don't want anybody doing my Super Bowl. I don't want anybody wants to be doing their, Final Four. So it becomes like that. And it's fair. So I really, honestly, I never shot a tournament. I mean, I shot plenty of college basketball in my life and whatnot, but regular season stuff, but never. And Syracuse, they got in, right?
Yeah, and Rutgers.
11
I know Rutgers did. Yeah.
Very happy. Ellis goes to Rutgers and Jake goes to Syracuse.
Oh,
so
yeah.
a lot of representation in the tourney.
Did Syracuse deserve it? They're like slid in with their 9th.
I think we deserved it.
They deserve fair. Like they both deserve what they got, I think.
Okay.
I would agree.
Syracuse might have been a bit high.
We could have had a playing game.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we were high, Ellis. I think we could have had a playing game.
What's a 9 seed?
11.
11. Wow.
Yeah. You got a tournament winner for us then? Just straight shooting here.
I mean, Gonzaga is the story, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Gonzaga.
I'm gonna go with the undefeated season, right?
Yeah.
Something the Patriots could never do.
Patriots could never do, Fox.
Okay, we got 6 other Super Bowls.
All right. Well, Rob, thank you so much for coming on the pod. I'm sure we learned a lot, and we'll get the episode to you, and we're very excited. Carlos sends his best too.
All right. Yeah. All right, guys.
All right. Thanks so much, Rob.
All right. Thank you so much, Rob, for coming on to episode 54 of Who's on Top. Our third guest, and all of them super distinguished. Oh no, a fourth guest, and all of them super distinguished.
Okay. Let's be clear. Our fourth big guest. We've had many like smaller guests.
Yeah, our fourth big and super
distinguished. Like Cooter guests.
Yeah, super interesting, and we really enjoyed it. We hope you did as well. And
we'd like for our announcements. I have a quick one. We'd like to thank our new social media manager who's doing our stories at this point. Go check out WOT.podcast on Instagram.
All right. So new person doing our Instagram stories. Very professional, much better than me. I'll be fully honest with you. So check that out at our Instagram, WOT.podcast, WOT.podcast, lowercase. Since we're talking about social media, got to mention Dan Fox's Twitter account at also WOT.podcast, WOT.podcast.
Warming up. I'm getting ready.
With a capital W. There you'll find face shops. You'll have polls, Dan's live reaction to baseball, and a lot of other things. But more importantly, you'll know when our new podcast is out. Subscribe to our YouTube to see our visually, Rob and all of us, at Who's on Top, notifications bell, like, comment, all that good stuff on our YouTube. Also, listen to our podcast. Subscribe at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Buzzsprout. Those are the big ones, but there's a lot of other small platforms we're on. Only one we're not on is Amazon Podcast. So everywhere else, we are on, which gives you no excuse.
Fuck
You
you,
gotta-
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, honestly, yeah,
excuse.
leave that in. Fuck you, Jeff Bezos.
You gotta check that out. I think that is well, again, I want to say thank you so much, Rob, for coming on. Such an interesting episode. And I think
Hold up. Shout out to Carlos for introducing me to Rob.
Oh,
Great
yeah,
job,
yeah.
Carlos.
I think that's any other notes to add, boys? No, yes. I feel like I'm missing something, but I think that's just me. All right. As always, after that shenanigans, hope you stay healthy and have a great week. Hope you enjoyed the podcast and goodbye.
Goodbye.